public comment on items not on the agenda? All right, seeing none, let's dive right in. Our first item concerns this proclamation. Does anybody want to speak to that?
Yeah, I'll just say a few words. That over the past year, it's occurred to me that it's probably time that Missoula County weigh in with a formal recognition of some sort for the service of Trooper Wade Palmer. And one way to do so would be declaring a day as Wade Palmer Day in Missoula County, and just recognize his service not only to the state of Montana, but specifically to Missoula County and Missoula County residents, given the sacrifices that he made in the line of duty here in our very own county. So what we have here is a resolution, or a proclamation, I should say, and we will also be reading this on the steps of the courthouse on Friday with a representative from the Montana Attorney General's office, and also with other law enforcement presence from our sheriff's office.
Great.
At noon.
At noon.
At noon. Noon on Friday, courthouse steps.
Well, I motion that we, I motion that we sign the proclamation proclaiming May 22nd as Trooper Wade Palmer Day.
I will second that enthusiastically.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Dave, I think we definitely want to thank you for bringing this forward and getting us to do this. Good job. Thanks.
Yeah, my pleasure. So we will read this on Friday.
All right, the next one up is our very own John Hart.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners. This is John Hart over in the County Attorney's Office. I have another riveting subdivision improvements agreement for your consideration this morning. This one involves Canyon East subdivision, and specifically phases 8 and 9 of that subdivision. This is a subdivision that was given preliminary approval in July of 2003. 17 years later, they're ready to file a final plat, but there are some improvements that have not been installed, inspected, and approved. And so the agreement that is before you this morning guarantees that those improvements will be installed no later than March 19th of 2021. The improvements yet to be completed are primarily sidewalks and some landscaping and a few other minor things, but it's mostly sidewalk improvement. And the total cost of those improvements, and this has been reviewed by our Public Works department, the total cost of the construction of those improvements are $45,507.50. The agreement guarantees that the developer will again install those improvements by March 19th of next year, and the developer has provided Missoula County with an irrevocable letter of credit in the amount of $45,507, guaranteeing that if the developer, for whatever reason, is unable to install those improvements within the time agreed, that Missoula County can call on that letter of credit and have the money to see that those improvements are installed, so that folks who buy lots in this subdivision between now and March of next year have the guarantee that these improvements will go in as platted and as approved. So I've reviewed the agreement, I've reviewed the letter of credit, I've reviewed the Public Works approval of the cost of what needs to be installed, and I recommend that the board execute this improvements agreement and guarantee. Are there any questions about this one?
Yeah, sorry, Canyon East, that's opposite East Missoula?
I
Well,
should
I don't-
know that. I should know that,
Think so.
Juan, but I don't know that. Is there anybody on the call? I know that Canyon River.
Are you wondering where Canyon East is located?
Yes.
Do you know where Canyon Creek Village is out by the airport, that subdivision that's got the really small
Oh, yes.
lots? It's between that subdivision and the gravel pit to the east.
So basically, it's nowhere near a canyon, and it's east of something.
Yes. It's east of something.
So, John, I had a quick question. I want to absolutely assume the best on all of all parties involved, and then still curious as to what happens if in March of 2021 these improvements aren't made, and how do we find out that they were made and on time?
So what happens in the county is that myself, Annie Cathy, and Brent O'Connor will docket 90 days before March 19th of 2021 to remind the three of us to follow up with the developer and the developer's consultant, in this case it's Territorial Landworks, to find out if the improvements have been installed. If they haven't been installed, what's the plan to have them installed before the deadline? And then we follow that up. And I haven't had to call yet on a letter of credit because the improvements always get installed by the deadline. But if we're coming up on the March 19th, 2021 deadline, and the improvements aren't in, there hasn't been an inspection, you know, we perhaps are getting the runaround from somebody, we will not hesitate then to take the letter of credit. In this case, it's with First Interstate Bank, and present it to them and tell them that pursuant to the agreement and their guarantee that the improvements may not be completed by the deadline, and that if they're not completed by the deadline, then we'll call on this amount of money. And pursuant to the statutes in Montana on letters of credit, First Interstate Bank is obligated to pay that amount of money to Missoula County. Now, if there's been a partial satisfaction of, let's say that maybe half or a third of the improvements have been installed by that deadline, well then Missoula County is only, First Interstate Bank is only obligated to relinquish that amount of money that's necessary to complete the improvements that haven't been completed. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
So John, in that worst case scenario that we do call on that letter of credit, and Missoula County becomes in receipt of payment, would we then go out and hire a contractor to finish the work, or how does that pan out?
Well, if we had the capacity and expertise to do the work ourselves, we might consider that option. But in all likelihood, we would contract to have the improvements made. And you know, you've always got cost increases and things like that to think about. So there's the scenario. Well, what if this isn't enough money to complete the improvements? Then is Missoula County left holding the bag on that? And we would be, but that's why there's always a 25% contingency added into the estimate of probable costs, and is also included in the amount of the letter of credit. So for instance, the engineer's estimate of the improvements costs for this particular project is only $36,406, but there's been an extra $9,101 of contingency added into that for a total of the $45,507. So, you know, that it's good that that's been built in, so that if there are cost overruns, that will probably be absorbed by that 25% contingency, and the taxpayers wouldn't be left holding the bag.
That's great.
All right, I would move that we approve the subdivision improvements agreement and guarantee for Canyon East phases 8 and 9.
Second.
Wonderful. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks for the explanation, John.
You bet. Thank you, commissioners. Good news, I have a haircut appointment tomorrow too, so the mad scientist look may or may not be there after tomorrow.
Well, I've got an appointment this afternoon, and I was watching a video conference with the governor and John Tester yesterday, and my wife asked me, does John Tester have a toupee? Apparently he has not had a haircut in a couple months also, so.
Wow.
All right. All right. It's a trend. It's a trend.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Jenny, you're up.
Okay, I will keep this brief. It is a simple.
Uh-oh.
It is so simple that we're not even going to hear from
went
her.
away.
Did I cut out?
Yes, you went
Yep,
away.
I missed it all.
Missed it all. Okay. I'm going to turn off my video. I've been having some trouble. I apologize. Okay. So this is a request that you approve an amendment to extend our contract and design. They are our consultants who are working with us on our county zoning amendments phase 2. The original contract end date was June 30th, which is about 5 weeks from now. We are asking to extend it to December 30th of this year, given the interruption of all of our schedules with COVID-19, and additional time needed to take a look at not only revising the regulations, but to zone land with those zones. To approve extending our professional services agreement to December 31st of 2020.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't hear the
Lee?
last, and I'm involved in this zoning, I believe, with East Missoula and one of the new designations. So I would like to. Yes, it is. Jenny, I didn't hear what you said. Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, Jenny, you were cutting in and out.
Yeah, I wonder if I should call. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I should call in. You could pick up the next agenda item.
Okay.
Will that work okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, Dory, let's do you.
Yeah, good morning. So this is an annual contract that we do with Van Noy Mowing. It's just for the county-owned lots at the Missoula Development Park. And like I say, it's just the annual contract. It comes into up to a little less than $11,000. Assuming our sale of the lot goes through, we'll take that off, so obviously you won't mow that. So it includes the lawn and the technology district lots.
Hey, Dory, so is this maintenance cost coming out of the land sales fund, or how is this being paid for?
It is. It's always come out of the land sales fund.
So I guess just thinking ahead, and maybe this is, I don't know if this is the year to do it or not, but it seems like we ought to, for a maintenance cost like this that recurs on an annual basis, this is something we should just budget for and not be essentially drawing down a static fund for just ongoing maintenance. So.
Yeah, I did reach out because my funds are either tax increment or land sale, so I don't have a different source, just somewhere else to put it under. And so I reached out to Andrew and to Parks and to see whether they wanted to take this on, and they declined. Or Andrew didn't think that was necessary as long as we're doing it right now under land sales. So.
Well, let's revisit that because I mean, just from a general fiscal policy approach, it doesn't seem prudent to be drawing down the corpus of our land sales fund for maintenance that is just ongoing in perpetuity. So.
Yeah. So between this and, well, for Lalonde, it's about 5,000 a year. So that's more what I was thinking, is if we could at least move that. So we'll just keep that conversation going.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Any
had a
lots
question.
left in the technology district?
Pardon?
What's left in the technology district?
We actually have 12 lots left in the technology district. And I'm sorry, I don't know the acreage off the top of my head. I should.
I think Bert had a question.
Yeah, I want to fall back on my previous life as an auditor and ask if this has been bid out and if we had multiple quotes on it, or if we just arbitrarily are taking the same company over and over and over.
Not arbitrarily. We send it out because of the price. We contact contact several other companies. I either don't get a response or it's very high. Vanoy is traditionally, not only for this, but for other contracts, lower. So we do send out, I contact a couple other IB. They usually don't get back to me, and a couple other companies on this, but Vanoy has always been the least expensive.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, great question.
And Dave, I just wanted to speak to the mowing contract coming out of land sales. My thought there was that once these lots have been sold, well, the mowing costs actually go away. The only ongoing expense is for Lalonde, and that's something we have to figure out and develop a cost center for Lalonde itself.
That sounds like a good idea. That the mowing costs for land that's going to be sold coming in and going out of land sales does sort of have a sensibility to it, but Lalonde seems like it should be situated somewhere else because it is ongoing.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right,
Sorry. I move, where are we? The request of the board approve the mowing contract with Vanoy Enterprises LLC for county-owned lots at the development park.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Got your money's worth out of that one, Dory.
Yeah, thank you.
Can anybody tell if Jenny has rejoined us?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Yes.
Okay. So let me just restate what I was trying to present earlier about the request to approve an amendment to our professional services agreement with Orion Planning and Design. They are our consultants assisting us with our zoning code rewrite. We are asking that you approve an extension to our professional services agreement from June 30th of this year to December 31st. With the COVID-19 interruption of schedules, it has delayed us slightly as well. We are looking at needing additional time to develop the regulations and then also map them and propose changes to zoning on the ground to match our land use plan once our new regulations are drafted. So we are asking for some additional time to accomplish that and extending our contract, which is acceptable also to our consultant.
So Jenny, does this mean the scope of work has expanded, or are we basically just dealing with the COVID interruption and needing to add more time on the far end?
There's no additional scope of work or budget increase. It is simply a time extension.
Okay, great, thanks.
And to do the before and after examples, Josh, that you were asking about in the amendment meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Or am I confusing two different zoning amendments?
No, that's
Okay.
That's right. So the process is ongoing. What we were presented with the other day, Jenny, that is what we're talking about here that Orion is working on, and just additional time is necessary given some of the delays with COVID-19. Is that correct?
That is correct. Primarily due to COVID-19, but also taking a look at, we knew this was coming a few months ago, but we finally got to proposing this as a contract extension where we wanted to not only create new regs, but decided that it made more sense to apply them on the ground as part of the same project rather than consecutive projects.
And so that would, to Lee's question, not to put words in your mouth, Lee, but the actual rezoning, the map amendments to apply, say, the live work zoning district that's proposed on the ground in East Missoula would be folded into this process.
Yeah,
that's what I wanted to hear. This is the first I had paid attention to this, and I'm glad to support it being held off or extended another 6 months, because we haven't had an opportunity with East Missoula Community Council to weigh in much on that live make designation. I know that we've had our past 2 months of East Missoula Community Council meetings canceled. So we are now working on a virtual meeting that I'll work with Jenny on setting up in June. And I want to stay right on top of this matter all the way through to the end of this phase. And I'm glad if you guys approve the additional 6 months, I'm glad, because it'll give us time to work through what needs to be dealt with and get public input from our community out here in East Missoula. And I'm sure Bert would like to probably weigh in with the Bonner Milltown area, because they've got that designation as well.
Not really. I think we'll follow Lee's footprint and see what happens. A lot of faith in Jenny and her crew doing what they got to do, and we will follow it. But, you know, other than the fact that I like to talk, I got nothing to say for that.
Well, I definitely want to be involved, so I'm glad for the extension, because we haven't had an opportunity yet to really weigh in as much as we'd like.
And this is Jenny. That is our intent. We've been working with Lee and plan to work with Bonner, West Riverside, to address how to develop and apply the live make, as well as many other components of the zoning that we want to make sure we get right and need some additional time.
I support the extension. This is Lee from East Missoula Community Council.
All right.
I think it's Dave's turn.
Yeah.
Okay, if it is my turn, I will move that we approve the amendment to the PSA.
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Okay.
Thank
Eric,
you.
got a couple of them.
Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jenny.
Okay, yes, so my first item is the professional services agreement for the asphalt supply for this year. Each year we go out for a bid, and this year we received 2 bids as usual from Western Materials and from Knife River. Knife River submitted the low bid, and with the budget concerns, we did go back to them because we bid 10,000 tons, trying to figure out what our budgets may or may not be over the next fiscal year. We reduced that estimate to about 6,500 tons. Contacted Knife River, and they said that they would honor that same bid price for the reduced quantity. This is the first time that we've used a professional services agreement for the asphalt supply. That's something that Dave Wall requested to keep this clean and official. So this is the first time you're seeing a professional services agreement for asphalt supply. So we would recommend that the agreement be executed.
So Eric, that's a pretty substantial reduction from 10,000 tons to 6,500. What is it that how are we getting by with so much less?
Well, fortunately, we're being supplemented with BARSA funds. We're using portions of the BARSA funds for millings and chip seal on some of those roads up by Sealy. And then the leftover we're using for our asphalt maintenance, and that's part of the site visit that Commissioner Vero is going on this afternoon for portions of Paddy Canyon Road and Rattlesnake Drive. So we're going to try and concentrate our efforts in those recreational areas this year. So we're just getting by with providing less service, unfortunately, and that's all we can do. So trying to make the most critical ones our priority, which we always do. We're just not going to get to as many roads this year,
right?
Unless, of course, things happen to pick up through the fall and winter and early spring, in which case we'll still have time on this contract in the spring to pick up some work before the next fiscal year starts.
Okay, well, I move to approve the new professional services agreement with Knife River.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next one.
So you may recall last week that we did the chip supply, and so this is a new program for, well, at least in the past 20 years that we are working on, and we are getting millings from MDT up in Sealy Lake, and we are going to cover Holland Lake Road, Frontier Drive, Canyon Drive, and portions of Placid Creek Road with millings, and the best surface treatment that we can provide to ensure that that milling placement is successful is to either provide an overlay or a chip seal. Chip seal is much cheaper, and so we got quotes or bids on the application of the chips that we bought last week. So Riverside Contracting here in Missoula provided the lowest bid, and we would recommend that the agreement be executed.
No, this sounds great, and if it hasn't happened already, it might be worthwhile just giving the community councils in Sealy Lake and up in the Swan a heads up, because I would certainly hope that this is going to be a well-received program in their areas.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Dave. We should let them know before this happens, and thrilled to see the kind of reuse and recycling side of millings and to do something that otherwise costs a whole bunch of money.
Right. Yes, we can let them know.
Fantastic. Yeah, I would move that we approve the PSA with Riverside Contracting.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay, Cindy.
Good morning. This is Cindy Kennedy with Grants and Community Programs. I would like to request that the board approve the chair to sign an authorizing statement to certify that information and statements made in the Montana Department of Natural Resource Grant and Loan application for the Buena Vista Wastewater Project Phase 2 are true, complete, and accurate, and that the activity described in the application complies with all applicable state, local, and federal laws and regulations. Just to give you a little reminder, phase 2 of the Buena Vista wastewater improvement project will involve restoring the 3 lagoons to their original condition, moving the main, which currently runs under the homes in the community, moving that to the street and connecting individual sewer services to the new main. And the city of Missoula has indicated that it would take on the Buena Vista sewer system once it becomes accessible for maintenance. And right now, in its current condition, it is not accessible for maintenance. Plus, we suspect it's probably failing. It was installed back in the 60s and somewhat archaic. Any questions? Well, let me give you a little more. This phase 2, we're expected it'll cost a little over $1 million. And we currently have $125,000 in WRDA funding, which is Water Resource Development Act funding from the Army Corps of Engineers. This grant would be for $125,000. So we would need to write some more grants if we were to get this. And to fill in the gap, the significant funding gap, we would explore applying for community development block grant funds over the summer and state revolving loan funds. Any questions?
Just the timeline. What?
So this DNRC proposal is due. This is due June 1st. We're kind of getting down to the wire due to uncontrolled circumstances on my part. We didn't get a start on this proposal as soon as I would have liked. We're still waiting for our engineers to come through with a preliminary engineering report, and that's been delayed for a variety of reasons. And then we would apply for CDBG and SRF over the summer. Of CDBG would be due in September. And then it would take a while for the engineers. We would have to contract with engineers to design the project. So it would probably be, construction would probably happen maybe in 2021, in the summer of 2021. That's optimistic. Is that the timeline you're thinking of?
Yeah, yep, thank you. And just hoping, yep.
And Cindy, do you feel like the facilities are going to hang in there that long?
That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah. Yeah, well, hopefully. Hopefully they will. I mean, they've been in this condition for a while now. It took us a while to get phase 1 completed. And that's really exciting that that's, for the most part, you know, we installed a lift station and abandoned the lagoon system. So that's exciting. But yeah, we're just kind of limping along and hoping that it continues to function.
Yeah.
Glad you're on it.
We don't have any. Yeah, we're on it.
No other option, really.
Takes time.
No other option. Yeah.
Pardon
So
me?
I move that Josh approve or that he signs the authorizing statement to certify the information statements made are complete, accurate, and described, and that the activity described in the application complies with all the regulations.
I will second that because there seems to be no good reason not to sign such a thing.
Not at all. No. All right. All in favor.
Aye.
Thank you, Cindy, for doing this great work.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate your help.
All right, Chet.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. This is a request of the board to approve a transfer of $800 from the East Missoula Community Council budget and $300 from the Bonner Milltown Community Council budget to the county's Community Assistant Fund. And the reason for this would be that each of the councils are interested in providing a donation in their names to the Missoula Food Bank. We have both Bert and Lee here to provide a little bit of additional perspective from the both of the community councils.
Thanks.
If you don't mind, Lee, I'll go first on this. The thing is that there is a group out of East Missoula called East of Missoula that's been providing food boxes from the food bank to families in this area that go all the way up to Potomac and all the way out to Clinton. And we've got some people here in Bonner that have been supporting that. Lee and I both, and our councils, have felt like we needed to support that more than just having one or two people working, popping boxes out and delivering them. And we felt that, Lee felt that their board could do $800. We have $300 available and are looking at potentially doing more if this keeps on going longer. So we want to support the food bank and the East of Missoula group that are distributing food.
What he said. And I know Bert sent you a letter that that Bert and I compiled. He sent a letter to you, the commissioners, on Friday, I believe it was, Thursday or Friday. And I want you to be aware that everything in that letter is exactly what we're talking about as far as how this has been done. And I know that these funds that we're requesting aren't typically what this is used for, but these are not typical times. And to help our communities out here, I think this is our best effort that we can make at this time for the allocation of those funds. We, as I say this as the East Missoula Community Council, we are concerned about our citizens without jobs, with stay-at-home orders and being safe and protecting themselves. I think that this ask, perhaps, if you think this goes above and beyond what a community council should request, I tend to think this is exactly what a community council should request. This is how we help our residents in our communities.
I agree with all of that, and I would say that the way we've requested this to be done sidesteps a little bit the possibility of us at the council level actually using our funds directly in an inappropriate manner, and instead having the commissioners do this in our name.
I just want to add to this. I really appreciate, Bert, you and Lee and your respective community councils' flexibility in allowing us to do this in this process. Moving through the CAF, it's clean that way, and it's consistent with how we get money to our various organizations out there. So I appreciate your flexibility and really appreciate the sentiments behind it.
I would say that maybe you should expect to hear from a couple of other councils too, since they found out what we're doing.
It's all right.
Yes, and I'd like to say thank you for Chet for providing the guidance that we needed for our initial attempts that we were going to do on our own. And thanks to reaching out to Chet, he was able to help guide us in the proper channels it took to reach it to you guys on the county commissioners.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chet.
Well done, Chet.
And Chet, so for these two community councils and possibly others, if anyone else makes the same sort of request, would be essentially made whole or brought up to the $1,000 level in the fiscal year 2021 budget. Is that correct?
I think that's the plan. I think you may not have seen it yet, Bert and Lee, but I think the end of this fiscal year budget information, if it didn't go out here in the last day or two, you should see it today or tomorrow probably. But we'll wrap up this fiscal year and then we'll move forward with the next fiscal year and making their budgets whole.
It went out day before yesterday.
Yes, it did, and I've received it, and I've already forwarded it on to our treasurer to fill it out.
Yeah, thanks, Bert and Lee and everyone who's been working on this in your respective communities. So I would move that we approve the transfer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Chet. Thanks, Lee and Bert.
Thanks to the
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, commissioners.
Yeah. Okay, do we have any correspondence? All right, we could jump into discussion. Any communications issues?
I don't have anything today, commissioners.
Okay. Any new COVID stuff we want to talk about?
Commissioners, this is Adrienne Beck. I'm on the phone, kind of COVID related, but if there was a COVID/flood update that you'd like, I'd be happy to provide that.
Yeah, please do.
So we're kind of in constant communication with the Weather Service, and we're kind of continuing to see a rise on the Clark Fork River. We do have several homes that are kind of impacted and have lost access as a result of overland flooding. We do have Tower Street closed to local traffic only. We have kind of search and rescue on standby should the need arise for any kind of river rescues. And then we also have the Army Corps of Engineers in town. We have a team of 3 out of the Seattle district that is also kind of walking the levees and doing assessments for any kind of weak spots. They went out and toured the levee at Tura yesterday. That had substantial damage in 2018. The repair there looks good, as well as the repair on the Orchard Homes levee. It was repaired in the fall of 2019, so it has not been kind of what we would refer to as flood tested. So that is kind of their primary charge right now is just looking at those repair spots, making sure that we don't have any issues. They'll continue to stay in town and monitoring conditions on the ground until we reach our peak. Which right now we're anticipated to reach our peak sometime late tonight, early tomorrow morning. And then the river will slowly kind of come back down. It's important to note, though, that the peak that we're seeing right now is due largely to rainfall. So rain is coming out of the forecast, but we still have substantial snowmelt flooding. And so we will see the Clark Fork River stay in flood stage at least through next week as well. So impacts in the Tower Kerwald area will remain probably for another week or so. We just don't have good intel at this point from a forecasting standpoint how long we're going to stay in that flood stage.
Adrienne, do you think post-rain event with snowmelt, we could see waters get higher than the peak we'll see tonight?
You know, I mean, I think anything is possible. That's currently not in the forecast. This kind of sudden and large surge that we saw largely was because of the big low pressure systems that came in and dumped quite a bit of rain in the basin. That could happen again. This is a wet time of year for us, and certainly if we got another low pressure system coupled with snowmelt that remains in the mountains, there's still a lot of snow up there, a lot of water equivalent in the snow. We could see that again. But right now, the immediate kind of next week picture looks like we're going to come back down out of the 10-foot range.
Great, thanks.
The Bitterroot River is also expected to crest sometime midnight, early morning. We are keeping an eye on areas down in Lolo all the way down to the confluence with the Clark Fork. It has left its banks in some areas, but the impacts along the Bitterroot River tend to be mostly into fields and not into infrastructure such as roads or houses. We, and I don't know if Eric is still on or not, but we got word yesterday of some washout on Couture Lane right up there on the Lake County, Missoula County line. We're evaluating that as far as ensuring that people still have access. There was a culvert there that caused some washout around that culvert. They do still have access up through the Arlee side, and we're just going to continue to monitor that. There's a bridge that could become compromised as well, as Finley Creek kind of is swollen right now because of the rainfall.
I am still here, Adrienne, and I do have a little bit of an update. It sounds like Lake County is taking the lead on stabilizing that. As of this morning, things weren't worse than yesterday, so I hope that the work they can do on South Couture will ensure access for the next several weeks, but I haven't heard any different other than they are working on it.
Very good. The last bit that I would provide is that, we continue to have a close working relationship with the Hope Rescue Mission, as well as the HOT team from the Poverello Center, working with the Reserve Street encampment. There was a substantial effort in the last several days to move garbage up to an area that was not anticipated to be impacted by floodwater to be removed once flooding kind of subsides, as well as a pretty aggressive public education campaign down there to encourage folks to move to higher ground and to make sure that they stayed safe. Reports from yesterday are that that's been very successful.
Oh, great.
Yeah, Adrian, we had a meeting immediately prior to this one with TJ and Rich and discussed this topic, whether any additional measures would need to be made for the sake of the safety of folks who are camped out down there, not to mention emergency responders who might need to potentially rescue folks should they get trapped there, if we needed to take some additional actions to relocate folks, and to what extent we need to move post haste on that today in some sense.
Yeah, we're continuing to monitor that. Like I said, we have a good close relationship with the HOT team, who has a relationship with the individuals that are down there, as well as Hope Rescue Mission. We're doing some drone flights today, this morning, actually, probably right now as we speak, trying to just get better eyes on what is currently going on down there from a flood perspective and where access may be compromised.
Well, keep us posted. Like I say, if we need to circle up today with the commission this afternoon, I think we're prepared to do so.
Yeah, I think, yeah, Adrian, I know TJ and Rich are very eager to, they're really concerned and eager to create, even if it's a temporary solution, they're nervous about putting anyone in real harm's way.
Absolutely, yep.
I have a comment on COVID-19. I first would like to thank you guys for doing these virtual meetings that you've started. We've had a couple of them, and it's been a great roundup of being able to communicate with the local community councils and the commissioners. So I think that's fabulous. We talked at our last virtual meeting about creating some type of a template that we can do these virtual meetings with our community councils and put it into our bylaws. I don't know what's going on with that, but I would like to bring that up now. And I say that because I'm also a member of the East Missoula Sewer Board, and we just had a virtual meeting online the other night, and I'd like to use that template that we're going to be creating that enables our community councils to have virtual meetings. I would like to use that same template for the East Missoula Sewer Board so that we too can have our meetings on virtual, on the phone, like we just did on Tuesday night. That works for us, and I just want to throw that in. Is there an update on that template?
Let me break in here for a second. I would think that the discussion on that might be held off until we have the all council meeting on the 24th, so that the other councils can also be in on the conversation.
Okay, I agree with that. I'm just worried. I don't want.
They've only had a week.
I don't want the East Missoula Sewer Board to be passed up and in our ability to have our virtual meetings count. So as long as whatever we come up with, it could be retrospect to the meetings that we have just recently done and we'll have again before the 24th, that'd be great. Oh, wait a minute, what's the date today? Are you talking about, when's the 24th?
No, I'm talking about June.
June.
Okay, yeah, we will have had 2 sewer board meetings by then. So if we could just make it so it's retrospect, that'd be great.
Well, currently there's nothing in any rules anywhere that says we can't do virtual meetings. And so I'd say let's go for it until we get rules of how to do it.
Okay. That's all I had to say. Besides, thank you for the virtual.
Okay, do we have anything else?
Yeah, I got one thing. It's kind of something that has stuck in my craw and it's trivial. So let's start with that. It's not anything real big. We all know that water flows downhill. And we know that because of that, the Clark Fork River runs from east to west. How is it that the local phenomenon is we call Orchard Homes above Missoula? It's flooding above Missoula. It's on all the news programs. It's in the paper. We have flooding above Missoula, but it's downriver.
So Bert, that's where the river gauge is located. The river gauge is located above the city of Missoula on the Clark Fork River.
How can we have flooding above the Missoula though?
It's the location of the gauge. So the gauge they're using to measure the flooding is called the Clark Fork above Missoula because it's before the city limits.
It's the name of the gauge.
That is definitely a local phenomenon to call downriver up above. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out as something I've noticed over the years here.
Who names the water gauges, Chris?
U.S. Geological
So that would
Survey.
be the I say the Weather Service or the River Predictive. Yep.
There we go.
Okay. That's it.
All right. I have just a quick COVID question. I mean, it's did I hear correctly, maybe, Ann, that there are 9 new cases in Ravalli County?
Ravioli County?
And I believe there are 8.
Or 8? And are they connected? Do we know anything about them?
Yes, they're connected, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
On the news last night, it said all 8 of them were related to travel, and none of it was community spread.
Okay. I meant 8 connected to each other. Doesn't matter. Okay, thanks. I don't have anything else.
All right. Any other comments? Questions? All right. Well, with that, it does seem to be that we are finished just right about on time.
Well done.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.